Hi friends, welcome back to my channel. Today is another episode of Ephemery. This is Carol from Crinkle Path Journals, and I'm so glad you're here. I know it's past Christmas, but I wanted to share this with you because it ended up being one of the very sweet memories from this past holiday. These are wrapping papers that belonged to my husband's grandmother on his mother's side. There are 11 cousins in his generation, and for years and years, they all went to grandmother's house for some kind of Christmas week celebration. They would travel, all go there, and grandmother had a tradition of wrapping a shoebox that you didn't unwrap the box. You just could pop the lid off, and she did a grandmother box every year. They were wrapped in these papers, and that was a big memory for all those kids in that generation, their spouses, including me. I started going to Christmas there maybe a couple years before we got married. I know I visited the family during that time, but I didn't really participate in Christmas until closer to when we got married. And then my husband and I actually ended up living near there when we were first married because I was still in medical school in that area where his grandparents lived. And so we got to be a part of Christmas in a big way when we were living there. Well, since our kids got older, we were traveling more during Christmas break for like a faraway destination. And so we didn't make it for Christmas after the grandparents were gone. Well, this year, his aunt and uncle, they host Christmas every year there. And they both personally invited us a few times to come and be a part of something that they call 2 alls. So the way they do presents now is you take the number of people who are attending, and it can be family, and then they have some close family friends that come and participate. You say there's 25 people. You bring 25 items, and they can all be the same or they can all be different. And we come together. You bring your 25 items, you put them on the table. Maybe you have some special reason why you brought what you brought. Maybe you traveled that year and you brought travel souvenirs, 25 travel souvenirs. Maybe you read 25 books, and so you brought the books to pass on to other people. So it's really a fun, in any budget works, because if you can't afford to do something extravagant, you just do something less. But everybody gets a gift from you, and then they make up a little fun game. Each person makes up their own rule for how they're going to distribute their gifts. And so, like the person who brought the books this year, she said, okay, whoever has read 100 books, you get to pick from the books on the table first. Well, nobody was really moving at first, and she said, children's books count. And so my husband and I both stood up. We decided to attend this kind of at the last minute. We jumped in our van and we traveled down there, but we had to come up with a gift to give. So I thought about this wrapping paper. I knew that a good number of family members who remembered grandmother boxes were going to be at this event. And so I thought, I'm going to use some of my grandmother wrapping paper to make cards. And here's what I did. I put the wrapping paper onto cards like this. So everybody got their little piece of ephemery. They all got a little piece of paper and the memory of grandmother's boxes that she used to do. And then her tradition was all year long, she would shop at places like Pick and Save. We didn't have dollar stores yet back then. This was like in the late 80s and early 90s. And she did this, well into the early 2000s. Like my daughters remember getting grandmother boxes before they passed away. And she would put fun things like my daughter's first doll that she ever got attached to was a little Pick and Save doll that had a rubber head and rubber arms and legs, and it had a soft cloth body, and it had a music box in it that played Edelweiss. And she still has that doll in her memory box, but that came out of a grandmother box. And she would put practical things like my husband taught elementary school, and he taught fourth, fifth, and sixth grade over the first few years he taught. He said grandmother boxes, he always got twine and safety pins. And he said, when you're teaching sixth grade, you need to have safety pins because little girls are trying on some new fashions, and sometimes those things are slipping off a shoulder or aren't quite fitting properly. So he said to keep the girls comfortable and decent, they'd get to school, they'd feel embarrassed about their outfit choice. He had safety pins at hand to kind of help with some modesty things. And then he also had the little boys that liked to sag their pants, and he would play PE with them every day. And those boys would try and run for catching a football or something, and their pants were so loose and falling down because it was this fashion that they couldn't chase the ball. And so they'd come to him and say, I don't have a belt. I want to be able to chase the ball. And so he'd pull out his twine and he'd tie their pants so they wouldn't fall down. So he always appreciated the practical things that she put in the grandmother boxes. But the piece de resistance in every grandmother box was a $5 bill. So we included a cute message in their cards, and we put a $5 bill in memory of grandmother. This was a gift that didn't require us to go out and buy anything. I made them, wrote in them while we were driving down there. It's about an 8-hour drive. And so that was our grandmother ephemery gift to everyone who came. And we were able to share the story with those people who hadn't been there when grandmother was giving out her boxes. And immediately, everybody who'd been a part of those Christmases with grandmother opened it and said, whoa, my brain had completely forgotten this. And as soon as I saw that wrapping paper, I remembered grandmother. So they all took one of these home as a souvenir, and it was just a really fun way to connect a memory by using some ephemera. Wrapping paper shouldn't last forever, and I have very little of this. I actually cut off maybe a few feet, and then I gave the rest of it to my sister-in-law because she really wanted some and is very sentimental about it as well. So that's my ephemery for today. If you want to share an ephemery video, just use the hashtag and tag me so I can add you to the playlist. And I'd really appreciate you sharing a piece of ephemera, something that wasn't meant to last forever, and your memory tied to it. Just one piece of ephemera or several, and a memory. So I appreciate you hanging out with me today and listening to my ephemery story. And I was so thrilled to be able to use some ephemery to share with somebody else so that they have an ephemera memory. Take care, everyone. I hope your New Year's is off to a great start. I know mine is, and we are expecting a baby any day. Take care, and I'll talk to you in the next video. Bye.